Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew.
Hey, guys. I'm Suzanne.
And this is the Culips English Podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Catchword, everyone. The series from Culips that teaches you idioms, phrasal verbs, or English expressions that will help you sound more natural and fluent. I'm here with my co-host, Suzanne. Hello, Suzanne. How's it going?
Yay. Hi, Andrew. It's been so long. Hi, listeners. I'm doing well. I hope you guys are all doing well, too. And before we get started, we want to give a shout out to our Culips members. Being a member gives you access to tons of great benefits like ad-free episodes, bonus content, and access to our member-only series, the Fluency Files. Dun, 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 dun.
That's right. And everyone, for this episode, and actually for all of our Culips episodes, we've got a special interactive transcript that lets you follow along with the audio, which makes it easier to understand and learn the expressions that we'll be teaching you here in this episode.
Yeah, and don't forget about the helpful study guide, which is designed to help you get the most out of each episode with clear explanations, usage examples, a quiz, and practice exercises.
That's right. So if you're interested in becoming a Culips member so that you can get the interactive transcript and the helpful study guide for this episode and for all of our episodes, then you can visit our website, culips.com, and sign up today.
Yeah, your support helps keep us making great lessons for English learners just like you. And speaking of great lessons, we've got a fun one for you today. Actually, these expressions are ones that we use when things are not going so well.
Yes, I think everyone has been in this kind of situation before, right, Suzanne? You have a project maybe that you're working on and you're stressed out about completing the project and finishing the project, and then something happens and it just falls apart. Well, in that kind of situation, you need to express your frustration and express that things aren't going so well. And that's what we will be teaching you, everybody, in this episode. So today, the two expressions that we are going to learn about are fun ones. I think these are rather fun. Unfortunately, a little colorful. The first one is to hit the fan. And the second one is everything's gone south. Everything's gone south.
Yeah. These are great expressions for those times when a situation takes a turn for the worse. I actually just recently had that too. When you said a project, I was doing a project. Then the files weren't uploading on my computer. The audio wasn't editing. I couldn't play the audio. Everything just, took a turn for the worse. So these can be really great idioms for those times. So let's get started. And let's start with to hit the fan.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump right in to the first expression. Like you said, Suzanne, is to hit the fan. To hit the fan. So this is the polite form of the expression, right? There are two versions of this expression. There is the one that's, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, rather colorful and a little bit rude. And then this is the more polite version. And Suzanne, it's been really cute. Over the last several episodes, I've got a lot of comments and messages and even some voice messages from kids who listen to our show. So there are lots of kids out there who listen to the show. Kids, I don't want you to repeat this expression if you hear
Yeah.
I don't want you to use it in the future because you might get in trouble from your mom or dad or your teacher, but I will explain the full, rather rude version of this expression just for everybody's education. And so the full version of this expression is when shit hits the fan, or shit hits the fan, right? And the more polite version that we'll focus on in this episode is to hit the fan. So to make it more polite, we do take out that swear word from the expression. And Suzanne, maybe you could explain the meaning. What kind of situation would we use this expression in, and what does it mean exactly?
Yeah. So when you can say like something hits the fan or to hit the fan, it's really when a situation suddenly becomes worse and then worse and then worse, just very problematic. And if you threw paper, like pieces of paper at a fan that was maybe, spinning, right? Those papers would fly all over the place and become very chaotic. So if we think about it that way, when something hits the fan, it is taking a problem and making it go all over the place and become worse and more chaotic.
Right. So the kind of fan that you're talking about here is like the kind of fan that you would use to cool down a room, right? Just like on a hot summer day, you turn that fan on to cool down a room. And wow, that's a great image of using paper. I like that more instead of poop.
Yeah, definitely cleaner.
So yeah, having like a huge stack of papers in front of a fan, the paper would just blow all over the place, right? So we use this expression metaphorically to talk about like if we have a little problem and then that problem is in front of the fan and it just spreads all over the place and gets worse and worse and worse. And yeah, so when we're in some kind of situation, maybe Suzanne, like your project that you were working on earlier, where one problem happened and then another and then another, in this kind of situation, it's exactly when we would say, oh, it hit the fan.
Yep. It just gets exponentially worse.
All right. So Suzanne, now we know about this expression. We know the rude form of this expression. We know the polite form. Although when I say rude and polite, this is a very informal expression, right? So even though there is one that uses a swear word and is on the ruder side of things, even the polite version of this expression, hit the fan, is so informal that you wouldn't really want to use it in like an important business meeting. Although, however, I do think that probably you would hear this expression a lot in the office. Like if, some business deal is falling apart at the last minute, maybe your boss would come into the meeting room and say like, everything's hitting the fan. We need to have an emergency meeting right now, right? To try and solve that kind of problem. So although it is informal and rather casual, because it is used to talk about projects and work and situations that fall apart or having some huge issue with them, and because that kind of thing happens a lot in business situations, then you do actually hear this a lot in a business environment. I think if you were to watch any Hollywood movies about that kind of thing, you would definitely hear it in the script for sure. So anyways, now we know the meaning, we know how to use it. Why don't we jump in and take a listen to a couple of conversation examples?
All right, so let's listen to the first example now. Did you hear about the scandal with the CEO embezzling company funds?
Yeah, it's crazy. And apparently he's been doing it for years.
I heard the board found out last week and fired him on the spot. I bet things really hit the fan when they confronted him with the evidence.
No kidding. I can't imagine the chaos that must have caused in the office. It's going to take a long time for the company to recover from this. Let's break this example down. So in this example, we heard two friends talking about a news story, and it was about a scandal with a big company. And the CEO of that company was embezzling money from the company. Now, Suzanne, this probably is a new word for many of our listeners, so we should explain it. To embezzle means to steal money from a company, right? And usually you maybe create a secret bank account and you transfer some money here and some money there, and you kind of work some magic with the bank transfers so that some of that money ends up in your bank account, right? You're kind of sneaky with the way that you do the books, you do the accounting, and you take a little bit of money out of the company funds for yourself. That is embezzling. And so you can imagine if a CEO is caught stealing money, embezzling money from the company, that's not going to go over very well. And so the board of that company, they found out that this was happening, and the two friends are just imagining like, whoa, it must have really hit the fan in that boardroom. That's a huge crisis for the company if you have the CEO stealing money from the company. And so they were just talking about that news story and how it went down and how it hit the fan over at that company. No good. Not a very good situation at all.
No, not good at all.
All right. Why don't we move on to the second example?
Yeah, let's listen to it right now.
I thought you were supposed to turn in that big project today. How did it go?
Ugh, it was a disaster. I thought I had everything under control, but then I realized I was missing a bunch of important data.
So what did you do?
I had to go to my boss and explain the situation. It was so embarrassing. I could tell she was really annoyed. But she gave me an extension. I'm just dreading the moment when it all hits the fan and she realizes how much I screwed up. Oh no. All right, I'll explain this one.
Yeah, break it down for us, Suzanne. What happened here?
I gotta explain myself. So these are two coworkers discussing a large project that was supposed to be turned in, and so many things went wrong, especially with the data, missing data, important information that they needed to complete this project. And the person whose project it was had to go to their boss and kind of lay it all on the line. Please, I need more time. I don't have it ready. And it seems like this person is trying to cover up the mistakes and is scared that once the truth comes out, if it comes out that the data is not there in the project, that the important information is not included, that things are going to hit the fan. And then more and more problems will just come to this person and possibly the company. And it's like a domino effect, right? It's like you cover up one problem, then the next thing, then the next thing, like the next thing. Just like that paper example, it all just flies out all over the place. So I really hope that they can find a way to fix this. It feels stressful.
It does feel stressful. And what I liked about this example is that it's kind of funny. Like, there was a problem with the data. The project is ruined, right? But she's not talking about it hitting the fan now because she got an extension from her boss. So she's bought a little time. This kind of situation, we can say buy time, right? You've got an extension, you've bought some time. It's kind of cool for now, but eventually the boss is going to find out. Like, you can only delay for so long, right? Eventually the boss will find out. And at that moment, then it will hit the fan. And yeah, who knows? Maybe she's worried about her job even, right? Like, the boss could find out and she could get in trouble or get fired. Who knows? But yeah, that's an example of things hitting the fan for sure. Everything just being a mess and being a big problem. Absolutely.
I just wanted to point out to our listeners that I pronounced it data, and I think you pronounced it data, and that they're both correct, and that you can say that word D-A-T-A, data or data, and you can use both. Sometimes I say data, sometimes I say data. Just depends on how you feel that day. So both pronunciations are correct.
Yeah, great point. And I think, I probably go back and forth as well. I don't think I only say data or data. I think I probably interchange them. Another interesting thing is that data is actually the plural version of this word.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Many people don't realize that. So when you hear, especially academics, professors talking about it, they will say the data are instead of the data is.
Oh, yeah. But you could still say the data are, or do you say data are?
I think, you can say both. I think the singular is a different word. It's like datum or something. Nobody uses the singular version ever. But it's just one of those weird things in English where it seems like you should say data is. And many people do in just everyday life, right? But yeah, especially professors and academics, scientists, researchers, when they're talking about data, they'll use it in the plural form and say the data are indicating this or something like that. A nice little tidbit about the English language.
That was a good sidebar.
All right, Suzanne, let's jump into the next key expression for this episode, our second and final key idiom that we are going to teach everyone. And it's another one that you would use in this kind of situation where things just aren't going so well. And I think this one is pretty easy to visualize, just like the first one, actually. And it is everything's gone south. Everything's gone south. Or sometimes we just say it's going south, right? We can shorten it down to just it's going south. And Suzanne, could you break it down for us and explain what this means?
Yeah, I love to break it down. So it's really when something has taken a negative turn, when something is going down the drain, right? Going downhill, going south, going in a downward direction, but not in a happy, positive way, right? We can sometimes think, well, going south sounds great. Like it might be warmer there. It might be sunny and just like lots of beaches. No, not that kind of south. South in it's going down like into a drain. It's going away. So we can say something is going south. It is failing. It is getting worse. It's deteriorating.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the origin of this expression is pretty easy to track. And I know every culture, a lot of different cultures have different ways of representing a map of the world, but at least in European cultures and definitely in North American cultures as well, we have our map where the north part of the map is at the top of the map and the southern part of the world is at the bottom part of the world. So we associate up with being north and down with being south. So we even talk about this all the time. Like I'm going up north or I'm going down south. When we travel to one of these places, we use those two expressions. And so that is why we say something is going south. It's just because on a map, the southern direction is associated with going down. It's at the bottom part of the map. So when everything's going south, then, just like you said, Suzanne, it means that things are going down, and down is associated with being low and bad. And like you said, the drain or the sewer, like a really nasty kind of place, right? Where you don't want to be. So we use this expression to talk about work, just like with hit the fan. You can use it often in an office situation, talking about projects. Could be a relationship that you're in. Maybe you're dating someone and it's not going so well. You can say, oh, this relationship has really gone south. Just any kind of situation where things aren't working out the way that you want them to work out.
Yeah. And it's really that turn, right? To go south. It's really like it may have started to go okay for a while. And then it does take that turn. And then suddenly it's unmanageable. You're fumbling, and it's not easy anymore. So some similar expressions, literally to go downhill, right? Things are going downhill. And that has that same feeling to take that turn. And or to fall apart, right? That's something you may have heard before or more commonly used, to fall apart. The relationship, right, is falling apart, or, your project is falling apart, or to take a turn for the worse. To take a turn for the worse.
Again, it's got that image behind it of turning, right? So you could imagine that something is going okay and the progress of the project or the relationship has been okay, but there's been a corner that you have to turn. And after you turn the corner, well, then it's downhill, right? Things are falling apart. And it's just not so good. So that's kind of the imagery behind this expression and a lot of similarly related expressions as well.
Yeah. And just one more thing I wanted to add. You can use it for things that you project, that you see to start going wrong, right? So maybe say you're working on a project with a group of people at work and it's going fine, but then you're seeing that there could be some problems coming up. You're like, oh, I'm afraid it's going to go south, So you could use it for something that is starting to turn, or that you saw in the past that, yeah, I projected it was going to go south, right? It was going to turn. Or it could be something that suddenly happened where it was going fine and you had no idea, and it just took a turn for the worse and it went south right away, right? Like you come around the bend of a mountain and then all of a sudden, whoa, wait, what's that? And it goes down. So it could be for either something you know that you saw that was going to happen, or something that suddenly came up as well.
Absolutely. Good point. We can use this for predictable and unpredictable things that happen. Yeah. Great point. All right, Suzanne. Well, I think we're ready to jump in and hear some example conversations. So we got 2 here ready for our listeners to take a listen to, and we'll start with the first one. Let's do it. Hey, weren't you and your friends planning a big camping trip this weekend?
Yeah, we were really looking forward to it, but now it looks like everything's gone south.
Really? What happened?
Well, first, the weather report said there's a big storm coming. Then 2 people canceled at the last minute, and now my car is making a weird noise. I think we might have to call off the whole trip.
Oh, that sucks. Sounds like everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
Basically.
All right, let's break down this example conversation. So we hear 2 friends talking about a camping trip that unfortunately has just been canceled. Everything went south with this camping trip. First, the weather forecast. There was a big storm coming. And so because of that, some people canceled. Nobody likes to go camping in the rain, right? And on top of that, the car that they were going to take to go camping started making a weird noise. And so because of all of these factors, they decided just to call off the whole trip. And this is actually a really nice phrasal verb here, to call something off. And to call off just means to cancel. So they decided to call off the trip. They canceled the trip. And actually the conversation ended with a nice phrase as well. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And that's just another way that you could describe a situation that just ended up in the worst possible way. Although I have to say, I don't think this is the worst possible outcome, because they could have done the camping trip and they could have been camping in the rain, and the car could have broken down on the side of the road in a massive storm, and that would have been worse.
And then the things would have hit the fan even more.
Exactly. So I think it was wise of them to cancel this trip. Anyways, we have one final example conversation for this episode, and we'll take a listen to it now. Here we go.
Oh, hey, how's the app you're working on? How's it going?
Okay, well, not great, to be honest. We've run into a lot of problems, and I'm starting to think this whole project has just gone south.
Oh, what kind of problems?
Well, where should I start? We're way behind schedule. Plus, the developers keep running into bugs, and now we're over budget too. Plus, we just found out our competitor launched a similar app last week.
Oh, no, that does sound rough. Do you think you'll, be able to turn things around?
I don't know. I think at this point we might just cut our losses and move on to something else. Okay. And Suzanne, would you do us the honors and break this example down and explain what we heard in this one?
Sure. So these are 2 friends that, are talking about this new app that one of the friends has created or is in the process of creating. But right when they were maybe ready to launch this app, they ran into so many problems that the project went south. The development of the project just started having so many issues. They're behind schedule. They're running into bugs. Maybe certain things on the app maybe aren't working. Now they have too much debt. They're over budget. And a competitor has a similar app. So really the whole project, all their hopes and dreams, maybe even financial investments into this project just went down. Everything went south, and they might have to scrap the whole idea, right? We have a really interesting idiom here as well at the end where it says it might be better to cut our losses. To cut our losses, meaning they've lost so many things already, maybe money, time, even mental and emotional stress, that maybe let's cut our losses at that point so that we don't lose anything more. And that is an expression you can use when you want to just stop the losing. You've lost so much, it's time to stop it right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A similar expression that comes to mind is stop the bleeding. You want to stop the bleeding, right? It's a graphic expression. But like you could imagine these guys, these poor guys trying to make this app, their little company, and they're losing time, they're losing money, they're losing sleep, they're losing stress. You just got to stop everything, cut your losses, stop the bleeding, and just move on to a different project. All right, everyone. Well, that will bring us to the end of this episode. So thank you so much for listening, and congratulations on completing an English lesson here with Suzanne and me today. We appreciate that you spent some time with us. And now we're going to pass things over to you. We would like you to be productive with your English and to try using some of these expressions in your own speaking and writing going forward. And if you need a place to do that, we've got you covered. You can join the Culips Discord server, and there you'll be able to connect with other Culips listeners from around the world, and you can do just exactly what I recommended you do. You can practice your English speaking, you can practice your English writing, and hey, maybe even at the same time, you can make some new friends. We have a lot of awesome people on our server, and I'm positive that they will welcome you with open arms and would love to meet you and have you practice with them as well. So the link to join our Culips Discord server will be in the description for this episode. It's free to join, and we'd love to see you over there. Also, don't forget that if you would like to get the interactive transcript and study guide for this episode, you can do that. You just need to sign up and become a Culips member. When you're a Culips member, there are also lots of other great bonuses and benefits that you get. The full description can be found on our website, and you can sign up and join by visiting culips.com or just clicking the link in the description for this episode. Finally, we'd really appreciate it if you guys could help us spread the word about Culips and support the work that we do here. There are several ways that you can do that. You could leave us a 5-star rating and a review on your favorite podcast app. You could tell your friends who are learning English to check Culips out, or you could follow us on social media. These days, we're most active on Instagram and YouTube, and of course on Discord as well. So come on over and give us a follow on one of those services. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Guys, take care, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.